Hey, gang, welcome back. It's 2:07 on the East Coast. Wednesday, August 19th. All day, or so I hear, until round about midnight. That's what they tell me. Members only Wednesday. What's going on, gang? Good to see you all here. We're on. Cosmic Serpent is here. Brian Park is here. Magic Russ, good to see you. Wrath of Conti, even thanks for hitting that like button, everybody. I do appreciate it. Burlison put out this really interesting tweet. Dylan Borland put out a statement. Matt Brown put out a statement. Grusch has been putting out statements. Garry Nolan they just released an interview with Garry Nolan on the Soul Foundation YouTube channel, which is really interesting. We're going to talk about that today. And Bobby Bigelow friend of the channel, did an interview with George Knapp for episode 3 of the Bigelow podcast. And in that podcast, he made some interesting statements about his feelings regarding whistleblowers, gatekeepers, and the distinctions between the two. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll look at those clips as well. But first, let me just click pause on another screen, and let's check our comments. What's going on, everybody? Did you guys see these interviews? Has everyone here seen the first 2 of the Bigelow podcast? We're going to get, because this is about an hour and 20-minute episode. We're not going to go through the whole thing piece by piece, but he makes 3 really interesting points in this. One about gatekeepers, one about whistleblowers, and then one interesting turn in the conversation takes on the topic of who actually should be speaking for the people of Earth in any communications that are going on between humans and non-humans of whatever variety. And according to our friend David Grusch, there are quite a few varieties. Eric Davis is another one who just put out a statement asking President Trump to waive his NDA to allow him to say what he knows. And I mentioned this the other day, but I'll share it again just in case anybody hasn't seen this. Time Magazine, the new case for aliens. There's actually a really great short video, about a 5-minute video in this article that is a great little on-ramp to the whole topic, and takes it very seriously. I saw Bill Maher just said on air that disclosures already happened. We're already in a post-disclosure era, and now it's time for people to just get on board with that. Despite what you may feel about Bill, it's an interesting statement from a pretty mainstream entertainment figure. At this point, we kind of have crossed the Rubicon, I would say. What do you guys think in the chat? I feel like we're done. I feel like the disclosure conversation is so deeply underway at this point that it's an inevitable scenario that's going to play out regardless of who's in office. Like, this thing is just operating under its own momentum, at least so far as I can see. And the press coverage is getting more and more mainstream. Dr. Phil, most recently on his podcast, speaking with David Grusch in some great detail about the things that Grusch has seen and is aware of. And if you do just a little bit of reading between the lines and paying attention to some body language, when you watch that interview, you'll learn a lot. And to a large degree, it seems like the whistleblowers who have been coming forward lately have, and this is just my own take on it, I could be wrong, but have been trying to communicate a little bit more beyond the actual text of what it is they're saying, if you know what if you catch my drift. And I've been fascinated by that, trying to understand what those inferences could mean. There's a great moment in the Dr. Phil interview with David Grusch where he talks about ocean dwelling NHI, and he says wink, wink, and as a nod to this 4chan leak supposedly that happened a while back. And there's quite a bit of lore that's built up around this subject. So it's interesting to watch people who are speaking more openly in the public about what they know, having been very close to levels of this thing that we can only imagine, and watching the way that they kind of tiptoe through the minefield of the topic to tell you as much as they can without actually getting in trouble. So we'll look at some of these statements, and then I want to come to this interview with Bobby Bigelow, which is really interesting. But somebody in the chat just before the show started mentioned this tweet from Burlison, and I presume this is the one that they were referring to. So we're going to take a look at this, and then we'll let me see if I can get it into my proper window here. Here we go. Okie doke.
My name is Eric Burlison. I'm a Republican congressman from Missouri and a member of the task force on the declassification of federal secrets. We continue to receive credible claims of recovered craft of non-human origin and reverse engineering programs that may have operated for decades outside of any government oversight. Those claims point to specific facilities, contractors, records, and people. We continue to depend on whistleblowers to provide this critical information, but these whistleblowers are being terrorized. Mr. President, I'm asking for you to directly restore what many of these brave whistleblowers have already lost: their pensions, their clearances, and other benefits. Provide immunity for anyone and everyone who has already come forward and for those who will come forward. And now we ask that you open the doors and let them speak, not only to Congress, but to the public. This is the moment. Use the authority that you have been given, because the American people are behind you on this, and the time is now.
Okay. Yeah. The time is now. What do we think, people? UAP Nectar says, good afternoon, Clint. New Burlison, crazy selfie videos. Let's go. Kudos from minus Juarez, Brazil state where Virginia happened. Wow, cool, man. Thanks for the support. I hope I didn't butcher the name. I probably did, though. Peter Rose says, I think only whistleblower that is a firsthand witness is the only whistleblower that is a firsthand witness is Dylan Borland. Well, I guess it depends on if there are more people we haven't heard from yet. But yeah, I believe firsthand witness of an actual craft. And then there's witness of shenanigans. A lot of shenanigans. All right, I want to take a look. We're going to use that as a jumping off point to bounce over to this Bigelow interview. And then we'll come back. We'll circle back and look at what Dylan and Matt and Eric Davis had to say. But first, I want to take you on a journey of self-discovery with Robert Bigelow and George Knapp. This episode 3 of the Bigelow podcast is quite interesting. I was impressed, and I was impressed mainly with the line of questioning from George Knapp, and I was kind of disappointed in some of the answers that Bigelow gave. I think you'll understand when you see what we've got here. So take a listen. The first 3 to 4 minutes of this thing are load it up. Let me turn this music off so we don't get a... This is an iMovie
One of the things we spoke about in the first episode of the Bigelow podcast was about gatekeepers. And, you know, you've established some relationships with some of these gatekeepers, the companies, the corporations that have kept secrets related to UFOs, crashes, bodies, things of that sort. They've done what our government has asked them to do, and they've done it for 80 plus years. You believe that they should get a pass, that we should give a preemptive pardon of some sort, whatever crimes they've committed or lies that have been told in doing what the government asked them to do, that they should not have legal liability. Is that right?
Well, I think it's not that I have relationships
Right.
with any of these people. I think it's more, it's more simple. It's simpler to me. It's more black and white in that the government has been a partner in all of this since day one. So I can't see how you can blame half of the equation for not disclosing something that other people think ought to be disclosed. It's a partnership, hand in hand, working hand in hand, and yet, and the other part of this is the salient value to me is how much benefit we can get from them. That's not from as opposed to an adversarial kind of posture. We should have one of thank you, of appreciation, of giving them acknowledgement that they've been doing a lot of work that they've had to carry burden-wise, the secrecy and concerns about different kinds of things, and they really need help. They need more, the companies need more money. They need more scientists involved, but they have to maintain their secrecy at all costs because we are in competition with China and Russia on the exact same thing. And they don't have the concerns about secrecy that we do in terms of they can implement any level of secrecy that they want. They're not a free society. We are a completely free society. No, we are a free society, maybe not completely, obviously. We have our boundaries as to freedom of speech, as what's proper, and we have to be responsible for what we do. And so in those other societies, they're not, and they don't have those handcuffs. And that was one of the things that Harry Reid was concerned about, is that we are at a serious disadvantage. So if we were to say, we're going about this all wrong in terms of the level of the amount of information that's disclosed, there needs to be obvious parameters on that. It needs to be a process, a step-by-step, partial process delivery. It needs to be truthful. And we need to find ways to engage one of the most important assets that this country has. It's the gatekeepers.
Well, okay then. What did we think, chat? It's the gatekeepers. They need a pat on the back. They need a cookie. They need some more money. We need to tell them how great they are. Thank you for doing such a wonderful job. These poor, burdened secret keepers. Yeah. Yeah. Morgoth says if you committed a crime, you need to go to fucking jail. I don't disagree. He talks in circles a bit. Gaffney is a good, oh my gosh, you guys. Thanks, Toxic, for the support. It's well, this is something, isn't it? But we kind of knew this though. So he doesn't represent anybody. He's not speaking for anybody. Okay. And he doesn't really have relationships with anybody in this space. except the whole premise behind everything that we know about Bigelow is that was the whole point, right? So it just, that doesn't add up. And this idea that we have to just give blanket top-down immunity to the gatekeepers, specifically the gatekeepers of the program, legacy program. You're going to really love what he says next about whistleblowers. One gets the sense that he's trying to grease the wheels for some friends, right? One gets the sense that he's trying to grease the wheels a little bit, and maybe is representing a group or groups of people who are sitting on stuff that if they had a little more leeway, they could, I don't know, part ways with. And Bigelow probably sees an opening. I think that what's interesting here is that everybody is getting their ducks in a row, and this is something that's been apparent to me for a couple of weeks now as I start to watch all of these things pick up speed. This interview with Garry Nolan, which we're going to look at momentarily, they're already onto the conversation about what happens with the technology once disclosure is a done deal. Where does it go? How does it get rolled out of these special access programs and into some way of being absorbed into our economy without all of the roadblocks. And when you watch the two of them side by side, you can see a real difference between the way that Nolan approaches this as an academic and as an entrepreneur, and the way that Bigelow presents this whole idea, which sounds much more like somebody who would who has an interest in a certain outcome. Let's go on a little bit further because this gets more interesting as we go. You're all
and do it in a way that is really a great new era of partnership that has never existed for 80 years.
Do you know, or can you guess about the level of involvement of gatekeepers, some of these corporations, aerospace companies or whatever, in the recovery and reverse engineering operations? For example, do they go out to crash sites and gather this stuff up on their own, or do you know?
Even if I knew, George, I wouldn't say anything, but I don't know. You know, I'd be just speculating like anybody.
I guess when we're talking about sort of a preemptive pardon, it would depend on what they've done, right? I mean, in UFO world, you know the stories about witnesses being intimidated. They go back to Roswell. Death threats. I can tell you now, currently, people who have stepped forward to be whistleblowers and share information get death threats. Their homes are broken into. Somebody will sneak in the middle of the night, rearrange stuff. They're unemployable. I don't know that anybody's ever been murdered over this, but I suppose, that might be an exception to a blanket pardon, or would you think it has to be a case-by-case kind of a thing?
I think it's the level of that is something the President of the United States ought to be addressing. And I think that it's not up to me. It's not for me to suggest anything, or I think it's a presidential initiative that needs to happen. I would say he needs to give a preemptive pardon, but it has to be on a case-by-case basis. It has to be on what exactly is it, because national secrets are not to be taken lightly.
Okay, this is starting to fall apart altogether. Like, how can you give a blanket pardon on a case-by-case basis when you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about? We don't even know what's been done. Everyone's in the dark. He's asking for a blanket pardon for gatekeepers for crimes that they may or may not have committed because they were tasked with the role that they were tasked with by the federal government. So he's saying that partnership absolves them of responsibility. Now he's about to make a pivot to whistleblowers, and good on George for chasing this down with him. I don't like his answer. You're not going to like it either, but listen to what he says.
Yeah, that's not something that you can take lightly. our adversaries benefit. They're the ones that really benefit. For the American public, it's just pure, simple, paltry entertainment is what it is. But from a national security standpoint, it's very, very serious.
There is a race for this technology, right? Us, the Russians, the Chinese. Are there other countries you think that have recovered materials that are trying to figure it out?
Well, if they're making breakthroughs and we're not, that's a very serious problem. If we've made more progress than they have, we can live with that, because we have, I think, a higher standard of ethics than as a whole than China and Russia do. That's just my opinion. I think we do. I think as a country, we have our standards, which we have to covet and really protect our ethics and our standards in our nation.
Let's say
a lot of this stuff, that when we get into the national security implications and the geopolitics of the whole thing, they get so vague with all of it. The whole argument gets really vague. Well, we're in a race. Okay, we're in a race with who? With Russia and China. All right. Well, we don't want them to win. Okay. But what would it mean if they won? Well, we can't tell you because we don't really know. Why don't you know? Because everything is so classified. Okay. Well, 15 minutes ago, you were telling us none of this shit was real. And now you're telling us it's so real that if the Russians or the Chinese make some kind of breakthrough, we're all at risk. It's just, it's so tired. It's been played out. There's the fear narrative could be justified, but you can't do it on the back of nothing. You have to have you have to give us something. We have to understand what we're talking about here. And it's too vague and too loose as to what we've actually done, what we've accomplished, who has done what role these companies have played in the entire process, how much money has been misappropriated, how many billions or trillions of dollars have been misappropriated, taxpayer money. Bob, you probably don't pay the same taxes as the rest of us, but for those of us that are actually sensitive to that sort of thing, it's kind of interesting. Billions, decades, an ongoing program that spins out over multiple companies, technology companies, aerospace companies. People have been silenced. They've been ridiculed. They've been run out of their professions. They've been run out of the universities that they work for, they teach at, and they've had their lives completely destroyed. And that is still happening to this very day by the gatekeepers. That's how the gate is kept. So we really need to know a lot more about what we're talking about here. I don't think you can offer any kind of blanket immunity. I think you can offer blanket immunity as an option, but there's got to be some kind of a give and take here. And I just am very fuzzy on what exactly the status is of who holds the power in this situation, right? Like the gatekeepers are sitting on all of the information ostensibly. A lot of it, or at least some of it, is currently in the process of being destroyed, hidden, sequestered, lost, whatever. Because I think everybody knows that the situation here has a ticking clock attached to it. Whatever that clock looks like when it finally reaches zero, whatever the situation is, remains to be seen. But there is a sense of urgency here. And it's clear to me that all of this information is critical, as much as we can possibly understand. So if you have a criminal organization that is in the process of destroying evidence, and they are operating as a state within a state, then when you have authority over the actual mechanisms of government, like the executive branch does right now, and you could, with the stroke of a pen, issue an order that cancels the NDAs of all of these people. You could get them in a room. You could get David Grusch in the room with a phone call in about 30 minutes. You know, you could get a room full of people together. And I think this is the case that David has been making. And you could get a sense of what it is that you're dealing with. And then the move is to just be decisive and go for it. And before anybody has a chance to think about it, it's kind of over. But you have to you have to have a carrot and a stick. I don't know how this mentality of there's only one way to do this, and it starts with top-down blanket immunity, but only for the gatekeepers. Now listen to where we go next, because we're going to talk about whistleblowers, and this is where it gets really thorny.
What does Robert Bigelow think about whistleblowers? Because some brave people have stepped forward with bits and pieces of the story, things that they saw while they're working in classified programs, and they want to tell the world. President came out and said, you are hereby released from your non-disclosure agreement. But that isn't the same as saying you can speak publicly about what you saw, because they could still be prosecuted as a violation of their classification. What do you think about them? What should be done with them?
Well, George, I think, well, what comes to my mind right away is precedent in terms of where do you stop? So it's a categorical issue. It's one thing to be talking about the UFO subject and what you've seen that you're willing to talk about, but you've signed some security oath about doing that and you want to violate that oath. Or you feel that that oath is no longer binding because it had a termination period on it, but maybe there is no termination period. Now, shift to something that's entirely different that involves national security. And you have a person that's calling themselves a whistleblower on something that is classified secret about a new capability that a destroyer or battleship has, or a submarine more than likely has, it's very, very new. And yet that person is going to disclose that. Two very different situations, but the person might call themselves a whistleblower. And so the person that's in the second instance has prostituted himself or herself under the cloak of being a whistleblower, when in fact they're disclosing a national secret about a military application, and they turn into being a traitor.
Oh, that stings. A traitor. The problem is that there's a group of people who are in charge of making the distinction between what is and what is not a national security breach, and what is and what is not applicable to the term non-human technology. What if we're talking about something that is a derivative of a piece of non-human technology that is 3 generations deep, that is now deployed in some kind of, I don't know, platform? When does it stop being disclosure and start being an issue of treason? I don't think a whistleblower that goes through the proper channels and reports things correctly and properly and documents everything along the way and does what they're supposed to do by the book, I don't think you should classify that person as a traitor any more than you should classify a gatekeeper as a traitor. Now, if it's a case-by-case basis, then you have to have some other independent board that is assessing how this all works, because the people who have been in charge of this program for so long, for the entire time that it's been operational, have been making these designations in a way that seems very arbitrary. Everything is national security. Everything is life or death. Everything is, if you talk about it, then you'll disappear. And it's too much. We have nothing to work from. We have no baseline to understand what we're dealing with, because no one's talking yet. And trying to get after this thing is just, I think you need both. Thanks to whoever just gifted 5 memberships. Vanquish 4, thanks for the night shift memberships. By the way, today's show is brought to you by my X-Files mug. Let's see if I can. This is an OG X-Files mug from what? There we go. 1995. And inside the mug It's the coffee. The choice of a new generation. Night shift the coffee. The coffee you drink all night because you're insane. And you're so deep down the rabbit hole, you can't find your way back. You just need to stay awake and push on through one more day. Night shift the coffee. If you want to support the show, an easy way to do it is to go to teamnightshift.com and you can pick up a pack of our night shift coffee. Click the link for coffee, go there, and you can even subscribe. And once a month, you send us a couple of bucks, and we will send you a pack of night shift coffee, which is the freshest coffee in the galaxy, roasted for you within 48 hours of your order and shipped straight to your door. It's a beautiful thing. All right, guys. What do you have to say about Bobby Bigelow? Hi, Dana. Dana's here. Jessica's here. Jeff Wheeler. How you doing, Jeff? Angry drunken German 2819. Multinational corporations sure have no loyalty to this country. They sure don't deserve protections. Steve Owen, PhD, says Bigelow lost me 100% with this interview. Yeah, he kind of lost me too. Quantum Idiot says, doesn't prostitution require some exchange of funds? Well, I think this is the other thing too. It's like, what is a whistleblower blowing the whistle on, right? They're coming forward at great personal risk. These are people who don't have personal fortunes in the billions to fall back on. They don't have family businesses. They don't have business empires that they can rely on to furnish them with legal protections and health coverage and everything else. And they step out from the shadows to blow the whistle on something that they feel is going on illegally and needs to be dealt with. So why, I don't understand why Bigelow thinks these people would be coming forward and spilling the beans on national security secrets that don't have anything to do with illegal activity. That just doesn't make sense. So who is the criminal in his mind? And it seems like he's just out of touch, more or less, right? Like he's a guy who has access to the upper echelons of people in this program, knows a lot of them, I'm sure. Listen, I mean, he can say whatever he wants, but the social circle of people at that level is not huge. Or maybe it is huge, but it has a different type of person in it than you or I would interact with. He has access to people that you and I would never be able to talk to. He can get them on the phone. I suspect he's not just doing this for fun. This is positioning. We're getting we're setting the tone of the conversation going forward. And that's really interesting to watch. Travis Taylor called Bigelow cheap. Chica 2i5. That's funny. Mathematician, great name. Old rich white guy, out of touch. Weird. Yeah. Brian Park, TR3B. Bring out the Grusch. Android Paranormal, thanks for the super chat. I disagree with blanket amnesty, but regardless what the tech is, Russia and China would certainly weaponize the tech against us. Their actions prove it. Hang on a second. We got a lot of comments coming in. Support your not billionaire friends and get some night shift merch. Hey, thanks. Great tip. Important safety tip. Thanks, Egon. I disagree with blanket amnesty, but regardless what the tech is, Russia and China would certainly weaponize the tech against us. Their actions prove it. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess so. But at the same time, you can't just the excuse of national security is just so opaque and so overused. It's beat to death, and they have used it to perpetuate this whole thing for as long as it's been going on. And as a matter of fact, he even acknowledges that in this interview in a way that it was kind of funny, actually. I'll show you guys in a second here. Let me pull this up. Here we go. Listen to how he frames the situation. And tell me what you think about this. This is kind of wacky.
No, it's like a cattle mutilation. There's never been a prosecuting point. They've been good at it for 80 years.
Okay, let's back it up a little bit more.
Call.
Yeah.
He was here that night.
Yeah.
We ran it at 11 o'clock on our newscast thinking maybe he'll watch some local, be prosecuted for sharing information. I mean, it's a really big deal. I guess the question is, by the way, the day that episode was released to the public and aired on KLAS and on Mystery Wire, Trump came to town.
Mm-hmm.
He was here that night. We ran it at 11 o'clock on our newscast thinking maybe he'll watch some local news while he's in town. And I was hoping he would call you the next day. He didn't call.
Yeah, he didn't call. No, phone didn't ring. So,
well, I hope you sent a link to the interview to the people you know as administration, so they'll take a look at it and maybe he'll call down the road.
I don't bother them unless it's important.
Pretty important.
Yeah, but not quite.
How do you keep him on the straight and narrow and keep him informed on this topic when so many in his own government will try to thwart that? You've seen it. Well, we talked about it before with AAWSAP. Once the word was out that AAWSAP existed, the knives came out and people tried to cut the kneecaps off.
Yeah.
And we've seen the great work that Jay Stratton did at the UAP task force. They took all these cases, boiled them down to 144 really well-documented cases, and they said 143 of these are not explainable. They're real objects. And then UAP task force goes away, AARO comes in, and AARO explains it all away. Their job is counterintelligence and make this to go away, right?
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Yeah. And they're good at it. You have to clap and applaud. They're good at it. And they've been good at it for 80 years, regardless of who's in charge, who's died, who's come and gone and retired and so on. It's really been consistent. And the same thing with the tipping point of the reveal about UAPs
Romo DNI?
Doing exhibitions beyond the tipping point and not quite getting there, because it's been audacious as to what they've been able to get away with without a confirmation or disclosure all these 8 decades. It's amazing they've been able to do that. It's like a cattle mutilation. There's never been a prosecution or anybody caught, right? It's the most successful crime that exists, right? Nobody's been caught. So after all these years, you have missile silos shut down. Other ones become active, hot. The missiles are hot. It's like they're scratching their heads and they're saying, what the hell do we have to do next in order to be recognized?
I think it's safe to say that the people who are already in charge of the situation don't have a clue what the fuck they're doing. And the idea that just giving them some kind of blanket immunity, more funding, and a pat on the back and sending them on their way and making them the arbiters of the technology going forward is it just seems really short-sighted and out of touch. What do you guys think, though? Let me know. Bigelow needs to release the files from AAWSAP. He took taxpayers' money to fund it. Well, that's the trouble with these guys. They love to take taxpayer money, but then when it comes to accountability for that, they're sort of checked out. Not interested in that. Longhorn TR3B, maybe the gatekeepers have been saving us from something. We just have no idea. Fillet of soul. Yeah, that's a great point. And if that's the case, then we that make that case. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so vague. It's always like, well, it's national security, or it's too dangerous for anyone to know, or you guys will all freak out and you'll lose your minds if we tell you. But whatever the reason it is this week, we can't tell you. Now you have Bigelow coming out saying, well, you should tell people a little bit, but then really when it comes to the actual technology part, we need to put these legacy corporate partners out front as the experts on the whole thing, and defer to them. That kind of turning over the control of the whole situation to the people who've already been in control of it. So I don't know. It feels awkward to think of it that way, but I guess that's from his vantage point. Let's take a look at what he thinks about the question of who speaks for humanity, because ultimately it's these gatekeepers who are assumed to have initiated or maintained some kind of ongoing contact with at least some, if not all, of these various types of NHI that we can account for. Take a listen to this.
The WHO should communicate, and we briefly touched on this before, but the WHO should communicate is important. It's really important. Who
should speak for humanity?
Exactly. So who should perform the communication speaking for the human species? What type of humans should not be trusted to communicate in this process? Is there a type of people that would the ETs may not prefer be engaged?
Lawyers. You'd pick lawyers, right?
Well, so I'm thinking of a cartoon where the kid's telling his daddy, well, I think I'm going to be a lawyer. He comes to him and the father says, oh my God, I'm not that, type of thing. But anyway, so would military leaders be of the right mindset? Would there be a hostility already embedded in that, which we have found in maybe some really sedate kind of ways is not a good idea?
To a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
I'll put it this way. How you think is really, really important. How you think about even our normal lives is really important. But how you think really matters in this particular context, not in just like, well, what goes around comes around, or some kind of karmic effect, which is real. That really matters. But how you think, not even what you do, much less what you do, but how you think, it really matters. Because that's the ignition part that starts things to become chaotic. So what type? Okay, you're talking military leaders. I did say lawyers, and I have a lot of lawyers that are good friends of mine. Anyway, politicians, okay, they have a different kind of agenda. Uninformed scientists, they don't know what they're doing. Well, you wouldn't hand something to a child and say, okay, run with this, that doesn't know what it's holding. The child doesn't really know what it is. So those are some potentially detrimental examples, and there are probably many others. So the WHO is really important.
Yeah.
The WHO. And would you leave it up to the United Nations to decide? I mean, what does the United Nations even do that is good, that is efficient and productive and competent? What is their image exactly? So it'd be impossible to have a unanimous agreement on anything out of that body. And so there are 5 nations that have absolute veto power. Any one of them can veto anything, right? So would you leave it up to the 5 nations that represent the world? And they can't agree much on anything. But the key here is also, how would they quickly reach a unified agreement? If it's a group, how does a group reach is it the majority wins in the decision? Or does it need to be 100% based on the seriousness of whatever? How would they reach a unified agreement on every question? And let's suppose the questions are answered, their responses. How long does it take for you to answer the response and answer it, and then even in a unified way? Can all people ever agree on anything? No, it's impossible. You can't get everybody to agree on anything. So is it like the majority wins or whatever? And what is the right or wrong answer? So all these things are really tricky stuff. Communication is a big friggin' deal.
How do you initiate it?
That's like Elon's first rocket, BFD.
Yeah.
Only that it wasn't friggin'. So anyway, so those are really very tricky. And can we visualize that this process of communication is going to be durable? Can it be efficient for hours, days, weeks, months, or years?
I think he's making great points, and I agree with his general thesis on this, that left to the systems that we have in place now, we are not up to the task of identifying an ideal representative for humankind to engage in an ongoing dialogue with a superior, technologically superior civilization. And if we find out that that civilization is already here and present on the ocean floor, for example, that is going to complicate things a whole lot more, because it could be that the people that we share this planet with have come to a decision about the way that we handle the biosphere. And maybe our mismanagement of the planet's resources has become an issue that they need to deal with. And what if the communication is not positive? What if the communication is, in fact, like, get your shit together. If you don't, then we are going to make an appearance and we're going to rearrange the way that things work around here. We're going to establish control over the planet in a way that you're not going to like. What if that's the communication? And this is the problem. We don't know. Well, someone knows. Someone knows. There are people who have this information, and we need to know their names, and we need to understand what it is that they know. And I agree in principle. Yeah, you can't turn this over to nation states or even the United Nations or uninformed scientists. Well, we're going to need a period of time where we inform a generation of scientists. That's the next step. And you can't do that with all of the vital, critical information locked up in secure databases that aren't being shared with the academic world. If we need all hands on deck, then we need all hands on deck. And if it's that serious, then it's a problem for the world. So maybe the question isn't like, how do, are the systems we have in place now up to the task of handling communication like this? Maybe the question should be, what kind of system would be necessary to do that? And let's start designing that system now. And that might call for another layer of global diplomacy that hasn't been thought about so far. And that might involve the question of, how do traditional nation states coexist with entities that are more intelligent and technologically capable than themselves, when we've never really had to exist in that state before, right? Like, so play this out. What if the scenario turns out to be true, that there is a non-human intelligence present on the ocean floor in numbers large enough to be a real issue if they wanted to establish some kind of control over the situation here? They've been hiding at the bottom of the ocean. They come and go. They don't really bother us too much. They generally maintain their own lane. And now maybe they've come to the conclusion that it's time to step in a more direct way. Okay. So then who answers that? Is that the United States? Is it China? Is it Russia? Well, obviously it can't be any one of them. It has to be a global effort, but the global body doesn't exist yet that could handle something like that. So we would need to start developing the mindset that would be required to go there. And that might involve the heretofore unimaginable concept of having a common origin story. One species on one planet. We're human beings. This is the planet we share together. It doesn't really matter where you're from. It doesn't really matter what color your skin is. It really doesn't matter. We're just humans, and we're trying to get through and make it work and survive day by day. Our best and brightest are not in charge. We know that. We are not the ones in charge of communicating that information to anyone. And maybe that's why the situation is so fucked up. And maybe that's why the NHI choose to just communicate with people one at a time, a lot. Maybe it's something along those lines. But there's an interesting counter take to this, and this is a clip with Garry Nolan and Peter Skafish. Am I saying it right? From the Soul Foundation. And let me share this tab with you. Listen to what these two have to say. This is a great question by Peter, and then Gary's response is excellent. I think you're really going to appreciate this. And I think Gary's got the right idea here.
To expand upon that, I mean, to just repeat something you said that people might have missed, you're saying, look, you don't have to let the entire beast out from behind the curtain.
Right.
You can let out, you can release a few scientific or technical discoveries or things that are at the threshold of discovery. Let them be worked on in a more open way. Parts of it probably unclassified, parts classified still. But you've got greater numbers of scientists and engineers working.
Right. And I think, somebody on the inside would say, oh, that's already being done, right? That we've already given this piece to, Defense Corporation X or, Corporation Y. Yeah, that's fine. But it's not, there's no expectation that it'll be shared with anybody else. And the value of open source science, as has been shown, frankly, recently in AI again, or in biology, is that when ideas are shared, they are amplified and become synergistic with other ideas that are shared. And so I don't see, and certainly, at least as has been explained to me by people who claim to be involved or know of the legacy program, is that the silos are the problem. I mean, if I had siloed my postdocs, each in a separate laboratory, never to work with each other, all 30 or so of them that might have been in the room in my lab at any given moment in time, we would never accomplish anything. It's that team interaction that, gets the back and forth going on, because the attention span of any one person on any one thing doesn't let you realize that on the lab bench just next to you is going on some piece of information that you could have used. And so the public-private partnership idea is that outside investment groups could come in, invest in something, or even put down money and say, I'll put down $1 million or $100 million, and I'll get first rights of refusal of anything that comes out of this. Now, actually, that's not an idea that's unused today. I mean, literally, pharmaceutical companies or large electronics companies give money to universities in such a format, such an open format, that says, we're going to give you the money. We'll, maybe help you decide which projects should get funded. But we get first rights of refusal when you come up with something that might be patentable and usable. Perfectly acceptable, because then what happens is actually then the university will get a return. First of all, it pays for the researchers to do fun stuff and to explore. But also, if something practical comes out of it, the university gets a return on, and often the researcher, like me, gets a chance to spin the company out, where it would be then further funded by the same VC that took the option out in the first place. And I've watched that happen hundreds of times. And so I think that model is not being well accessed by our own government in this situation. Now, it might be that the holders of the Holy Grails might feel that they've got it all under control and they don't need anybody else's help. So thank you very much, Garry. We've got it under control. My argument would be, I doubt it, because I've seen many times, especially in large pharmaceutical companies, when they say such thing, 2 years later, they shut down the whole division because they don't got it.
They don't got it. They don't got it. I like this idea. I like the public-private partnership. I like that idea of looping in venture capital and private companies with the university system and academic researchers and combining the strongest parts of all of that under proper oversight. With proper congressional oversight, we can accomplish wonderful things, and we don't have to break the law. And those breakthroughs can be shared with the right people to benefit everyone. That's possible. Garry sees a path forward for that, and he leaves. And that path makes perfect sense for entrepreneurs and researchers to spin off their own companies. I mean, imagine the flourishing of technology that would happen over the decades to come if you released just the beginnings of what is available and started to filter that in. The R&D that would happen now, and that's to say nothing about the information they've already gathered. You know, what do they already know? But assuming people were starting from scratch with new stuff, just putting more brains on it and having more resources to apply and being able to study it in the open and share that information back and forth. I can imagine within a very short period of time, we would see that the effects of that research start to percolate through into the real economy for the rest of us to experience. And that would be really interesting to see. And I think that at the heart of all of this, that's really the thing, right? This is about the goose that lays the golden eggs is about to be released, and everybody is trying to figure out how to get into position to benefit from that. Not that it's about not that it's about that, right? It's not all about profits and being financially successful on the back of all this technology, but that, let's be honest, that's what's motivating a lot of the activity here. And I think part of the issue there is that it doesn't leave a lot of room for the big philosophical questions of like Bigelow did mention, who has the authority to speak for all of humankind? What should they be saying? How often should they say it? And what happens if we get a response? How does that response get dealt with? You need more voices in the room. And I think that the default mode for disclosure going forward should be inclusion, not exclusion. More voices in the room, not less. And I think that people who have demonstrably committed crimes knowingly with taxpayer money should be held accountable by the legal system for the crimes that they have committed. I think whistleblowers should be protected. I think most of us agree if you are a person from the inside trying to come out and share the information that you're aware of, that you've come into contact with, that has come to your attention in a legal way that is by the book and accounts for everything that you're supposed to do, and you're doing the right thing, why shouldn't those people have all of the protections that they can be afforded, up to and including a living stipend, health care, legal assistance? They should have legal help for all of their legal needs would need to be accounted for, and security and protection. I mean, these people, it's not even so much the questions of what they can do to you legally, which are already bad enough, you know, tie you up in court for the rest of your life and just hassle you forever. I'm talking about whistleblowers here who are suffering reprisals from their former employers, whether those whistleblowers are former military intelligence or contractors / other. It's the money thing. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to be broke. It's exhausting to be without any sense of security underneath your feet, any idea of what you're going to do tomorrow or next week or next month for that matter. It's emotionally taxing. If these people have families, and many of them do, or young children. It's taxing on the kids. And these are folks that are heroes. They're coming forward trying to do the right thing. And the whistleblowers, I identify more with whistleblowers than I do with gatekeepers. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like these are regular folks who live by a code, and they know what's bullshit when they see it, and they're not okay with it, and they're coming forward to try and make it right. Those people need to be celebrated and protected. Let's go to the chat. Mr. Justin. Hey, Mr. Justin. Oh, that reminds me. All right, so we're going to bounce out of this, and I want to go through a few more videos. Avi Loeb just put a tweet up a few hours ago. Let's take a look at Avi's tweet. Here we go. Garry Nolan's quote, though. They don't got it. They say, we got it. They don't got it. Okay, here's Avi Loeb talking about whistleblowers. Here we go.
The UAP Science Advisory Council fully supports requests made by David Grusch, Eric Davis, and others for the Trump administration to provide legal assurances, including immunity where necessary, for current and former government employees and military personnel, so that they can share information with the Council regarding alleged technology from a non-human origin and help guide the Council's scientific evaluation. In parallel, the Council is currently pursuing efforts to obtain and scientifically evaluate historical UAP records and legacy data. The UAP Science Advisory...
That's a really interesting statement. Again, everyone's getting their ducks in a row. Let's listen to that one more time. Avi Loeb is talking about whistleblowers.
Advisory Council fully supports requests made by David Grusch, Eric Davis, and others for the Trump administration to provide legal assurances, including immunity where necessary, for current and former government employees and military personnel, so that they can share information with the Council regarding alleged technology from a non-human origin and help guide the Council's scientific evaluation. In parallel, the Council is currently pursuing efforts to obtain and scientifically evaluate historical UAP records and legacy data.
Legacy data, okay.
The UAP Science Advisory...
UAP Science and Advisory Council. Avi Loeb's group is saying give them the immunity they need so they can come forward and tell us what the fuck is going on, because we need to know. Interesting. That is interesting. There was a Avi Loeb Gerb thing on News Nation a while back, and Avi was making the case that we need to forget about the past and move on. And I wonder what you guys think about that. If getting over this hump means just saying, look, we're gonna start with a clean slate. What does that need to include? What do you need for disclosure for you guys? Right? Like what is your must have? Hey, I have an idea. Let's do something. Let's do something fun. We haven't done this before. Today's Wednesday. We're going to do Doomer Friday, this Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I believe Dan Cleary will be with us this week. He wasn't with us last week. He was off fighting the gum disease, gingivitis. I think he'll be back. If we have everybody, this would be really cool. Would you guys do like, how many of you out there would do like a 30-second video on your phone, just a quick little selfie video, and in 30 seconds or less, tell me what is big D disclosure for you? What does big D disclosure mean? who should get immunity, who should not get immunity, what kind of information should be disclosed. Should we know it all? Is it open kimono? Is it limited and controlled? Let's do that. If anybody does this, I don't know if anybody will actually do it, but if you do, you can send me put your video up on YouTube as like an unlisted video, and then send me the link. You can go to teamnightshift.com. You can click make contact. It'll take you to the email form. You fill out that form and it'll go straight to me. I'll get those videos. And if we have like at least 3 or 4 of them, I'll play them on Friday. That would be kind of cool. I'm curious what you guys think. And I'm trying to think of ways to make it more interactive with, beyond just the chat and super chats and stuff. And it would be cool if we could do some back and forth video messages from audience people. So just a thought. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Liberation Times, new article from Chris Sharp, friend of the show, friend of disclosure. The push for UFO disclosure intensifies as pressure mounts on Donald Trump. 19 August 2026. A growing number of advocates are pressing President Trump to reveal what they believe is evidence of advanced non-human intelligence and its technologies interacting with humanity, an effort that has been accelerated in recent days. Written by Chris Sharp. The push follows new remarks from unidentified anomalous phenomena whistleblower and former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer David Grusch, who appeared last week on the Dr. Phil podcast, urging the Trump administration to take decisive action on the UAP issue. Grusch's comments come as Stephen Miller, one of Trump's closest and long-serving advisors, has reportedly been asked by the president to examine the UAP portfolio. Miller, a central architect of Trump-era policy and a dominant voice within his political operation, is now seen by disclosure advocates as a key figure in determining how the administration approaches the subject. During the interview with Dr. Phil, a friend of President Trump, Grusch said, quote, "I hope President Trump delivers on his promise. I think this is going to be the singular thing which is going to define his legacy." I'll let you read the full article in the link that I'm posting in the chat. That's Liberation Times, our friend Chris Sharp doing God's work for those of us who are following this very closely. This is a very exciting time. Everybody is working for the weekend, getting excited. It's like it's all happening at once. It was very, very slowly and then all at once. That's how disclosure happened. I'm pulling up my next clip for you guys. Bear with me. I know this is like, it looks like I just froze on the screen. But I assure you, I have not frozen. Chad's in the chat from BrewFOs. You know what? We'll take a quick break for, we need a gaming break, I think. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Here we go, guys. Sorry for the dead air. Here we go. BrewFOs.com. The game. This is amazing. You can go here and I'm going to demo this game for you. This is my son's favorite game right now. I don't know if you can hear this audio, but it's pretty awesome. BrewFO's The Game. The universe is full of non-human intelligences. Some are more advanced than humans. The NHI consider Earth as a gem in the universe. It has the perfect ingredients for something they covet most: water, hops, yeast. The perfect brew. And then gameplay is like fly around and grab beers. It's your tractor beam. Whoops. Don't drop them. You will break. And my son's favorite thing to do here is how. All right. That's enough of that. BrewFO is the game, though. Go to brewfos.com/play to play. BrewFO's the arcade game. I'll put the link in the chat for you guys. I hope that wasn't too loud. Oh, thanks, Mr. Justin. Justin's loaded up the chat. It's super fun. It's my son's favorite thing to do now is to play that game. And he's also playing Black Site Bros, which is the game that another game Justin's working on, but he only wants to play it as Xander. So every time we load it up, you have like 30 characters you can choose, and he's like, "I want to be Xander." I'm like, all right, Xander. Mr. G says, Clint, you can use, what is this? For free based on QR code. People can answer your question. Corporate use it. You can run it in 3 minutes. It's easy. Mentimeter? Mentimeter? What is that? Buy your son a damn Xbox. More disclosure in that game than we've gotten so far. Angry, drunken German. Here is Dylan Borland. He this is all posted on James Fox's X account. So if you haven't seen these yet, you can go to James Fox's X account and you see them all. I didn't want to go read this yet. And this is Dylan's statement on here we go. Sorry, gang. There it is. Okay, this one. Okay, we got David Grusch first. We're going to do David first, and then we'll do Dylan.
My name is David Grusch. I'm a former career Air Force intelligence officer and former senior official at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. I've already provided classified testimony and evidence to the Intelligence Community Inspector General and Congress about what I learned about unidentified anomalous phenomenon and the involvement of the United States, allied nations, and adversary governments in the retrieval of technology of unknown origin. This included photographs and videos of these operations, including the craft and the non-human occupants. And I've seen this evidence with my own eyes, and I've had these discussions with our nation's most senior leaders in a classified environment. I am prepared to provide a full historical accounting to the National Security Council principals and the White House Chief of Staff, and make any supporting public statements that are authorized to help this administration move disclosure forward. Ready to support Stephen Miller, Vice President Vance, and the administration immediately to identify the records, programs, and people involved and bring any improperly concealed activities back under lawful presidential and congressional oversight. Mr. President, give us the authorization and we're ready to go.
Wow. That was great. Let's watch it again.
My name is David Grusch. I'm a former career Air Force intelligence officer and former senior official at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. I've already provided classified testimony and evidence to the Intelligence Community Inspector General and Congress about what I learned about unidentified anomalous phenomenon and the involvement of the United States, allied nations, and adversary governments in the retrieval of technology of unknown origin. This included photographs and videos of these operations, including the craft and the non-human occupants. And I've seen this evidence with my own eyes, and I've had these discussions with our nation's most senior leaders in a classified environment. I am prepared to provide a full historical accounting to the National Security Council principals and the White House Chief of Staff, and make any supporting public statements that are authorized to help this administration move disclosure forward. Ready to support Stephen Miller, Vice President Vance, and the administration immediately to identify the records, programs, and people involved and bring any improperly concealed activities back under lawful presidential and congressional oversight. Mr. President, give us the authorization and we're ready to go. Staff, and make any supporting public statements that are authorized to help this administration move disclosure forward.
And make any supporting public statements. He's seen footage, video footage and photographs from inside craft with live beings, occupants of the craft, from recovery operations. He's seen this with his own eyes. He's briefed senior members of Congress and about this in a secure setting. And he is willing to come forward and make political statement or public statements to support disclosure. So it sounds, I'm reaching here a little bit, but it sounds like he's ready to show the goods. And it sounds like if he wanted to, he could produce those pretty quickly, which would be a really interesting way to upend the news cycle for a president that is in deep trouble. Trump's approval rating is now 33%, the lowest it's ever been. And it's not looking good. The Iran war is not looking good. The whole situation is pretty fucked up. And if I were a political strategist advising the president, I would be looking for a way out. And if you wanted to hit the reset button on almost everything, this would be the way to do it. No question. Make the statement, make the announcement, do it, make it official, make it big. He's a TV guy. He gets it, this is your made for TV moment. This is the moment where you get to walk out in the movie if you're President Trump. And I would be telling him this. I'm not a Trump guy, but if I were advising him, I would say, look, this is the moment in the movie where you get to walk out onto a stage and the whole world is going to watch and pay attention to what you say. And for 5 minutes, you can say anything. And if you say the right thing, you're going to go down in history forever as the guy who did the right thing at the right time. And that will eclipse anything else people say. That'll be the main thing that they take away from your time, your legacy. And I think that's pretty obvious, right? Like I'm not like a seasoned political strategist, but just basic common sense, right? But you have to play it right. You've got to make it big. You've got to, stick to a script. You've got to be bold. You have to offer something positive. It can't just be snide and political. It's got to be hopeful, and it would be the hardest thing for him to do, but I think if he did it, it would be the way out. What will it probably go down like in real life? Not that. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see what he does. And as we approach the November election, it'll be interesting to see how this becomes, how this issue gets positioned closer to the election. Sugar Rush Times 2030 says, all POTUS has to say is extraterrestrials are real and they're here. Here is the proof without risking national security, obviously. Yeah, like, look, you can show footage. Sorry, David, let me get this. Let me take this off the screen here. You can show footage from inside of a craft, and you can show bodies, but you would have to have a chain of custody. I mean, if it was an official military, footage from a military operation that was recorded and time stamped and could be verified, and you released that, you don't have to say anything about like what we've reverse engineered. You don't have to say anything about what kind of technology we've built off of the back of our understanding of all this stuff. You could just say, look, the beings are real. These are here's a photograph of each of the types of beings that we have encountered, and then you could just show that and say we've talked to short grays, tall grays, Nordics, mantids, or whatever it is. That's what Eric Davis says it is. And David Grusch said in the Dr. Phil interview that, how did he phrase it? This was one of those things where he reads between the lines a little bit. He says, or you have to read between the lines a little bit, but he says something along the lines of like everything that people have described, like the things that people describe that have had encounters with these beings have described a certain type of look to some of them, and those are mostly accurate, according to what he said. Now, I don't know how many he's talking. Is he talking only about the grays, or is he talking about more than that? It is an interesting statement. If you go back and watch it, I'm curious what you guys think about that. But great point. Yeah, that's all he has to say. David Targansky, if Trump ignores this, he's done. Yeah, he's circling the drain already. I mean, it's kind of over. I mean, this would be like in the last moments of the game, like just completely turning everything around. But if you really wanted to go balls to the wall, you'd have to show something spectacular, and it would have to be like a home run. And there's no room for error. It can't be. It's got to be legit, and people are going to know. They'll know the difference. The people who matter will know, and then he'll have control of the mic for a little bit. He's going to have a window in there of maybe hours, maybe days, maybe a week. I don't know. How long do you think it could buy him? Right? Economically, things are not looking great. Domestically, things are not looking great. Internationally, it's kind of a shit show. And then you come out and say, look, it's all real. Here's some footage. Here is a craft. Show some old stuff. Show some footage from 30 years ago. You don't have to show the most recent stuff, although people are probably going to want to see something recent. But you could say, like, if the Holloman Air Force base landing took place and there's footage of that, that's old enough that no one's going to be at risk. Show that. And then what are the consequences of somebody else doing it first? Like, what if a lot of the conversation revolves around the militarization of this technology? Like, if the Chinese make a breakthrough first, or the Russians make a breakthrough first, they're going to militarize it in some way that's puts us at risk. Okay, fine. But what about a third option where maybe they do that anyway, but what if they just do something else publicly? What if another country makes their announcement publicly and does it in a spectacular way? And you could make the argument that China is in a great position to step forward and say, well, we've established contact with a non-human intelligence, and that contact has been ongoing for some time. The People's Republic of China is, deep into diplomatic relations with this group, and they are one group of many that, are friends from the stars. Da, 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 da. You can imagine a well-written speech that's bold, visionary, hopeful, and inclusive, optimistic, something that's really powerful and rallies the response of the greater population of the world to look upwards and think positively about tomorrow. I think at this particular moment in history, that would be so powerful. And it really might kick off a whole nother era if someone were to do that. So you could have a situation where there's not necessarily a military conflict over this technology, but just a diplomatic victory, that somebody else just makes the move, they're bold, they go for it, and then it's China's century, right? If China has demonstrated that they're already the industrial powerhouse, the technology powerhouse, the robotics powerhouse that they are, I mean, they have a cohesive top-down government. They can move faster. They can regulate industries that need to be regulated. They can just make shit happen. If you're an NHI, do you really want to talk to the Americans? I mean, is it the Americans that, I mean, do they demonstrate the most restraint? Are they demonstrating, superior ability to take care of their people and make sure that they are happy and healthy and thriving? I mean, by what metric does the NHI decide who they are going to speak to? And that's an issue. So there are about a million reasons why doing it now makes sense, but all of them, in terms of the politics of it, point to this moment as being the best time to pull the trigger. If you were going to go for it, it's David Grusch is handing the president a once in a lifetime opportunity, and all he has to do is take the phone call. Make the phone call, have the meeting, get Matt Brown, Dylan Borland, get all these guys in a room, Dave, have them break it down, waive whatever you need to waive, take an hour out of your day and look at what they have to show you. And then once you see it, I mean, how old is Trump now? He's 80 something. How many more years is there, does he have to make an impact on the world that people will remember for all of human history? If you don't do it right now, then what if the next president is a Democrat and they do it? You know what I mean? Like just the optics of letting it go, of letting that opportunity slip through your hands, would be enough to make someone go for it. And you could really upset the apple cart. You're also sitting on all of this technology. Like you're in control of the federal government. You control the Supreme Court. You control Congress. Like you could really push through anything you want at this point. And if you wanted to, get your hands on some of that technology. Let's say you're the president of the United States, and let's say you own Truth Social. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Truth Social recently merged with TAE Systems, a fusion energy company. I mean, just for the sake of argument, let's say that your company had a $6 billion merger with TAE Systems, putting you squarely in the business of energy. And let's just say that, for the sake of argument, your administration can also make shit happen at the Department of Energy. And let's just say that, for the sake of argument, you could issue blanket immunity for whistleblowers that could tell you where the shit is. And, what if you felt like you were being kept in the dark by the deep state and you really wanted to just go for it? If there were a revolutionary new energy paradigm on the other side of disclosure, and a piece of technology that could be declassified in a way that was limited and controlled and then introduced into the marketplace in a way that feeds energy into the grid, but under a controlled system where it's not available to every single person necessarily, but it's a way to answer some of our energy needs, that would solve a lot of problems in one fell swoop. And you don't have to give everyone a flying car to do it. You could say, disclosure is here. Yes, we've made contact. Yes, we're in talks with some of these beings. Those talks are ongoing, and we have a diplomatic relationship with them. And then you could say, we're going to start introducing some of our scientists to this technology in a limited way, and we're going to allow them to do some research on it because that research is critical for the well-being of humanity. The next obvious move after disclosure is to reach out to the rest of the world and say, well, how could we imagine a better world knowing what we know now with this out in the open? What would that world look like? Is there a way that we can get past some of the nonsense and start focusing on developing a society that is more egalitarian than what we have now. I'm not naive about it. I don't think that it would happen overnight, but I think that you've got to start somewhere. Someone has to start having these conversations, right? Like, we can't be in the same mindset that we bring into 2026, 15 years from now, in a world where there's artificial superintelligences and non-human intelligences of the extraterrestrial variety coexisting openly on our planet. Like, this mindset's just not going to work. So we have to go there anyway. Might as well start having the conversation now. Here is Dylan Borland making a statement. He's reading a statement, and this one's only a minute. Let's take a look at Dylan's statement, and then we'll come back and discuss.
My name is Dylan Borland, a former geospatial intelligence analyst for the United States Air Force. I'm here today to ask President Trump to declassify all the records regarding UFOs and UAP that were currently brought forward by whistleblowers such as myself and everybody before and after me, both known and unknown. I can tell you with certainty that I provide evidence of current operations to ODNI, AARO, the ICIG, as well as Congress and their staff. We are doing this in hopes that President Trump will actually come forward and begin to lead on this subject and provide truth and transparency to the American people as well as humanity as a whole. It is hopeful for myself and others that bringing these videos to the president, that he will come forward and provide leadership to a new reality for not just America, but all humanity. Thank you for your time. Have a blessed day.
All right, there it is from Dylan Borland. This is great. This is the clip of Dr. Phil talking to David about the body. Take a listen to this while we're on it. This is also on James's.
They've said a lot of things about you, but they haven't proven you wrong. My question to you is, if the president said, okay, Dr. Phil, with or without cameras, whatever, if David knows where these things are and gave me the clearance to accompany you there, you have the ability to take me to where we could see a craft and a cadaver somewhere, somehow. You believe you could?
Oh yeah, we could take a little field trip out west, we'll say. Yeah, and we could certainly go to those facilities. So
you believe there would still be something at one of these places that we would be able to actually see?
Yeah, sometimes certain things are hard to move. You know, when they're particular size, it's a little bit laborious to move. So I think there's some locations that likely are untouched, because I'll be very vague on that.
I believe there are people from the president on down that truly want transparency and believe that the American people are entitled to know their circumstance in the universe. I believe they truly want that to happen.
I don't disagree, Phil. That would be interesting. We'll probably get that. That might be the disclosure that we get. Dr. Phil driving out with Fox News to a site where they display a body. Turn over one body to civilian science. One body. Just produce one non-human body and turn that over and let some scientists take it apart. And that's enough. No? All right. Matt Brown. Here's Matt's statement. Let's take a listen to Matt.
My name is Matthew Brown. From 2018 to 2025, I served as a national security contractor supporting the Department of War and the Department of State. In these roles, I was entrusted with our nation's most sensitive intelligence at every level of classification, along with operations designed to counter our adversaries' most destructive capabilities. Beginning in 2023, I provided sensitive information to Senate and House members regarding unidentified anomalous phenomena, technologies of unknown origin, and non-human intelligence. I also authored the document known as the Immaculate Constellation Report, the public version of which details evidence of longstanding United States government awareness of these subjects. The American people in Congress have not heard the whole truth because secrecy agreements and active threats prevent me from speaking freely. Mr. President, I respectfully ask that you release me from all relevant secrecy and non-disclosure obligations and protect my family from those who wish to harm me for telling the American people the truth. We are not alone.
Wow. This weighs so heavily on Matt. I really can't stress, and Dylan, all these guys. You can see it in their face, and you can see it in their body language, and you can just see how exhausted they are from having the weight of this on their mind and on their shoulders all the time. Matt famously has spoken publicly about some horrifying shit that was done to him and his wife. He had people break into his house, lay out photographs of his family on his couch. I believe it was the couch. And his grandfather's ashes were stolen and then moved out by the trash, or put in the trash, if I'm not mistaken. All of this to send a not so subtle message to Matt that he was on thin ice for what he was doing. And Bobby Bigelow would have you thinking this guy might be a traitor, depending on what it is that he has to say. At least based on his statement on his podcast. And I think this is the issue, right? Like, here's Matt, here's Dylan, here are some folks who have come forward, done everything right, by the book, and still live under the constant fear of being targeted for reprisal from former employers or from people within the deep state. I mean, just who knows? Who knows? There's a company, if I can remember the name here. Yeah. This is an interesting tidbit. There's a company called ManTech. And here we go. Share. ManTech. Mission depth, technology driven, innovation delivered. ManTech. Who we are, what we do. What we do. Insider threat. Threat management goes beyond. Here, let me read it in the announcer voice. Threat management goes beyond just security. It's about empowering your organization's mission to thrive in a world of evolving and complex threats. Insider threats pose a significant risk to organizations and their missions, demanding a comprehensive three-pronged approach of early detection, strong deterrence, and proactive threat defense. ManTech can transform your organization's posture against insider risks, safeguarding your future, one insider at a time. Detect, deter, detect, defend. At ManTech, we combine threat analysis expertise with solutions that leverage big data and contextual clues to pinpoint insider threats. That's scary. Our integrated solution applies pre-security screening to an employee's lifestyle, counterintelligence factors, and suitability. We also provide continuous evaluations, measured monitoring, and rapid response. And, of course, we analyze data from physical security safeguards, including alarms, CCTV, and entry and exit checks. The result is a full-spectrum insider risk program that seamlessly integrates data analytics with the human factor, personal training, and processes. Personnel training. See, I have one take. I used to get it all in one take. These guys, a lot of are responsible for some of these reprisals. At least that's the rumor. I can't prove that, but that's the rumor. And there are other groups that do similar things. So again, I'm not saying that they are responsible for what happened to Matt, but it is one of the things that companies like this do is manage people who are talking too much or have too many questions. And that's terrifying. That's terrifying. And you can see it in Matt's face. You can look at the exhale he has to do before he can collect himself to just read the statement. And he's so stressed out. I mean, imagine going through your life and never knowing, like, is someone gonna walk up behind me when I'm in the bathroom at Wendy's, and is that when it's gonna happen, or is it gonna be when I'm driving to work, or is it gonna be when I'm trying to cross the street? Like, what's gonna happen, or is it ever gonna happen, or maybe it happens 5 years from now, or 2 days from now, or 5 minutes after you hang up the phone. Whatever they're gonna do, the uncertainty around it is terrifying, and that just knowing that you're at risk and in danger at all times, and that's the psychological impact of that is not to be taken lightly, and that's what condition these whistleblowers live in most of the time. Compare that to the gatekeepers who occupy very powerful corporate positions. They are sitting on top of the actual data sets, the actual information, and the materials, and the research that's been done so far. They have cards to play. They have leverage to use. They are not at risk like these guys are. They don't have their cheese twisting out in the wind like Dylan and Matt and these other whistleblowers do. So these are people who are coming in from on high with all of the swag from this program, and they can say at their leisure, like, look, this is what I'll give you, this is what I want in return, and they can make deals. That's Bigelow's world. Like, he's up there. But the guys who are actually making things happen aren't those guys. It's the guys at the bottom. It's the whistleblowers who are coming forward. It's David Grusch. That's what's making things happen, right? That's the guy. It's Matt Brown. It's Dylan Borland. It's all of these folks. And if you want to see more of that, then you have to support these guys and show the rest of the whistleblowers who are waiting in the wings to come forward that they're going to be okay. And I think that's where everybody is right now. It's kind of this weird moment of like, well, what's going to happen? We all kind of know the secret's out. Everybody's talking about it. It's sort of a done deal. It's a matter of time before a president just says it out loud. It might as well be this president. If anyone's going to do it, okay, fine. He's not my pick, but all right, fine. That gets us past this and we can move on and we can get to the next phase. Okay. I'm willing to take that risk. That's, maybe he makes the whole thing into a joke and it's ridiculous, or maybe he nails it. Maybe he nails it and it's picture perfect and it's awesome. And the real test will be what happens in the days and weeks and months to follow. How does whoever makes that announcement tee up the ball so that the people who follow behind can actually create a better world? And that's got to be measurably better in a way that's different than what we're looking at right now. It can't just be more and better exotic weapons. That's not the answer. Bigelow is like, well, who should speak for Earth? Well, according to the first half of that podcast, it's the gatekeepers. They're the ones who should speak for Earth. They're the people who have done it so far. They're the people who, according to Bigelow, know the most. And so therefore, they should be the people that we rely on to continue this conversation without any idea of what's been said so far and what level of conversation we're even having. I mean, are we having a level of conversation that carries a lot of nuance and information? And are we having active relationships with these non-human civilizations? Or is it more distant and it's more random and sort of all over the place? Who's going to speak for Earth? Those questions have to start being asked now, and we need to start expanding the pool of people to draw from, so that the answer is not just the 6 people who have already been speaking for Earth for the last 15, 20 years, unelected bureaucrats somewhere in the system, or members of corporations that no one knows who they are, that have access to the technology to communicate with these beings and are doing whatever that it is that they're doing with it. And to Mr. Bigelow, too, another question, this would be a great one for George to ask in a follow-up episode, is what if the gatekeepers have committed real fucked up crimes? Like, what if they have run their own retrieval operations, which we suspect that they have, and what if in the course of doing so, they demonstrated something, some form of violence on these beings that we are now going to have to pay for collectively? right? Like what if they weren't representing the best of humanity when they went in to recover this technology, and they go in and they machine gun all the aliens, take the ship, and go cut everybody up? And what if the beings that were cut up aren't thrilled about that? And now we've got a fucked up relationship with this NHI because someone that no one elected, deep within some special access program no one will ever understand, 30 years ago made a fucked up decision because they didn't have the full information that they needed, and now we're all going to pay. Is that person? Do we give them blanket immunity? Toxic says, are the NHI not smart enough to realize the people they're dealing with will not have humanity's best interest in mind? Or maybe NHI don't have our best interest in mind either. Well, I think that's there you go, right? Like that's kind of where I'm at. This is the case for an honest and open, as David Grusch says, open kimono conversation, right? If you want to get past the weirdness and you want to reestablish trust in institutions about this topic, then you have to have a period of time where the secrets are aired out. People get a chance to understand and process at least the big picture of what we're looking at, what we're dealing with, and what the consequences of dealing with it are going to be going forward. And then from there, we can start to reach into a deeper pool of expertise, people who are maybe outside of the military industrial complex, who have different ideas about how to conduct ourselves in a world with various other types of intelligences that are much more powerful than ourselves. And maybe instead of looking at, if you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, well, maybe we need some people who aren't hammers involved in this process. So I think the only healthy disclosure that you could ask for is one where, at the very least, we are able to open up some of the historical files here, and the data that was paid for by taxpayer dollars becomes made available to researchers, civilian researchers, who can actually make use of that data and do something productive with it outside of these SAPs. So I'm curious what you guys think about this. Is there a way to thread that needle? Roberto Bromolo, 1483, became a member. Thanks for becoming a member. I appreciate that. Let's check our chat. Fillet of Soul. Disclosure should be done with a drum circle. Morgoth says, mathematician, crimes aren't crimes if you're rich. Mr. G says, experiencers are in communication. Rest is playing command and conquer. That's why there is fishing for experiencers ongoing. That is true. That is interesting too. Good point. Go, Roberto. Viva. I think that understanding of the experiencer's phenomenon would shape disclosure. ABMQA. I think that understanding of the experiencer's phenomenon would shape disclosure. Yeah, and that's an interesting point, because Bigelow didn't really go there. And wow, that's you make a great point. Maybe the thing to do is to start identifying experiencers and extending a hand to them and saying, look, what can we do for you to help you get, what help do you need? Do you need help? Right? And maybe this is the thing. Maybe part of it is funding some kind of study program where experiencers are allowed to voluntarily participate, and maybe there's a process by which those experiencers are brought into the program. And if you say to them, look, what do you need? Do you need anything? Is there anything we can offer you that would help you? Do you need counseling? Do you need support financially? Is there something we can offer you? We want to understand more about how your contact works with these beings, and we want to establish some kind of research program to get that fleshed out. Obviously, there are certain people who are contacted frequently by these beings in one form or another, and they are given information. The people who have been ostensibly on board craft, abductees, are our only currently source of intelligence that has been inside the craft and seen what's going on inside there during normal operations, right? Like an abductee that has been taken from their home and brought on board a craft and then has awareness of being on the craft can be a person that can be hypnotically regressed and walked through that experience, can identify the features of the craft, how big it is, how many rooms there are, how many people are on board. Maybe not ultra specific detail, but what if you get enough of them over a long enough period of time and you start to get a data set together? And then from there, you can start to put together a picture of, okay, well, what is it they're after? What are they doing? What kind of questions are they asking? What kind of procedures are they? This has not been undertaken in any real serious, concentrated, focused way by the mainstream civilian academic world. I mean, John Mack, Bud Hopkins are the only two people that I'm aware of that have done any really serious, in-depth research into this. It would be really fascinating to see what could come out of such a project if there was a way to do it. New super chat from Angry Drunken German. Thanks for the super chat. Free the whistleblowers to tell the truth. Will all believe them before presidents or intel communities or defense contractors. Facts are facts. That is true. I would believe Matt Brown, Dylan, Dave. These are people I trust. I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of these guys, and you know, when you meet somebody and you have an opportunity to spend a little time with them, you know your bullshit meter goes off in the presence of people who are just faking it, right? Like Lou Elizondo, I just have a weird vibe that comes off of when he's talking. I just have a weirdness about it. Something in me just like, this guy is not telling you everything. He's holding back something really critical. And we all feel that. I think most people do. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. And I just don't get that with Dylan. I don't get it with Matt. I don't get it with David Grusch. Like, I don't have that. My instinct tells me these gentlemen are shooting straight with me. They're shooting straight with you. They're being honest, and they are trying to do the right thing. And I think if you ask yourself, how does it actually land when you're looking at these guys and you're watching their body language? Look at the way that Lou Elizondo talks. Look at the way he presents on camera, and then watch Matt Brown deliver that written statement, and look at the difference in body language, and look at the fear and the stress and the tension that Matt is fighting through just to get through the statement. This is a guy that's got a lot on the line. There are real stakes here, and you can see that come through. Brian Park, TR3B, says Matt Brown is existentially threatened. Yeah, it's all psychological warfare on these guys. It's literally just let them know that you can get to them anytime, anywhere. Make them understand that there is no place that is safe, and that any time at day or night, something can happen. You can turn around and there could be a guy standing there. You could get into your car and turn it on and something could happen. You could go out for dinner and never come home. You could go for a hike and disappear. A lot of things can happen out in the middle of nowhere. And if you're a nature lover and you like to go on long hikes by yourself and you're a whistleblower, can you imagine? They just fucked up the best thing about your life, like going hiking in nature and relaxing and just being able to enjoy being outside. You'll never know if today's the day. I'm going to go on a hike today. I hope a fucking ninja team doesn't jump down from a tree and cut me in half or throw a shuriken into my neck while I'm tying my shoe. Even generals go missing in the woods. That's right, Brian. Johan 108, Lou tortured people in Guantanamo, so he will never have any trust from me. War criminal. Severed Culture says, didn't she tell Jacques Vallée not to fall for Thiel's BS and not accept money? Oh, Peter Thiel. Yeah, and make no mistake, Peter Thiel is involved in this. Like this, Silicon Valley is on deck. Don't slander the ninja community, Clint. We're good people. There was a bit so many years ago, God, it must have been 15, 16 years ago, about I think it was a Onion bit about the Ninja Parade, the annual Ninja Parade. You guys, if you haven't seen this, you got to look it up. All the people who went out to see the Ninja Parade. Jesse Michaels says he isn't, Clint. Well, maybe he isn't, but so far, I'm not buying that. I mean, are you going to tell me, look, common sense, right? Like this topic is fully out in the open. This thing has gone completely mainstream. There's no question. There is no way you have not heard about UFOs, UAPs, NHI, disclosure. Like there's no way. If you are a tech billionaire and you have access to the internet, there's no way this is not on your radar. If you own a social media company, there is no way you're missing this. Like, no way. And these guys know just as well as you and I what is at stake, and they have the resources and the finances to make shit happen. They can do stuff behind the scenes, and they can finance research. They can finance influencers. They can reach out and pay for political careers to succeed, or they can make them fail. You know, they're picking and choosing politicians that favor their political views, and are willing to deregulate their industries. Why wouldn't tech billionaires, why wouldn't the tech oligarchy be all over this? If you were a person in charge of a tech company that's producing frontier AI models, and you are in a race against every other company for any advantage that will give you the lead, that will be almost permanent, surely, once you have it. Whoever gets that lead first will always have that lead. Then why wouldn't you be interested in the most advanced technology that is available on planet Earth, that's locked up in a program that is about to be disclosed? And you have all these people making public statements saying that, yeah, this exists, it's there, we know where it is. We've got bodies, we've got biologics, we've got hardware, we've got materials, we've got metamaterials, we have tools, we have implements, we have things that we've taken out of the craft, we have pieces of machinery that do shit. We can turn it on, we can turn it off. I mean, just think about one body, a non-human being, just the cadaver, the biological research value, astronomical, right? Like what kind of drug discoveries could you make? I mean, who knows? Just the basic research that would come out of something like that might provide the raw materials for some breakthrough that happens 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 20 years from now. Every minute that is wasted not looking at this more deeply and with a larger group of researchers is a minute that we're never going to get back. And think about like the leveraging what is available now for future progress. It seems like the most obvious thing in the world to me. Johan, you're welcome for pronouncing your name. Extended life, longevity, maybe. I mean, that's one of the points that Garry Nolan makes in his podcast interview with Peter. He says, look, a lot of this basic research that is fun to do at the beginning is it doesn't directly commercialize in a simple, straightforward way, but it lays the foundation for other entrepreneurs later come along and make connections and decide, hey, maybe there is a way to commercialize this, or maybe there is a way to turn this into a product or a solution for a problem. Saving the world is going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to make a lot of people rich. The world is in dire straits. I think that's obvious. If you are in the southeastern United States right now, you're under a heat dome. Where I am today, it is about 100 degrees. I think the heat index is like 102. We're under a heat advisory. The world's on fire. And it's pretty fucked up. this technology could unfuck that situation. And between here and there, it's going to take a lot of companies and a lot of entrepreneurs to research, understand, and deploy the necessary technology to save our ass. And I think that's just where we are. I think the data says that. I think that that's what the whistleblowers are telling us. And, you know, the situation is grim before you even bring the aliens into it. It's grim because we've made it that way. So if we're going to turn this thing around and we're going to pull out of this dive, we got to start ASAP. And I hope that that's what happens next. I really, truly do. Okay, guys, I've got to wrap it there. That's the end of the show for me today. But I do want to remind you one last time to consider subscribing if you haven't already. We just broke the 50,000 subscriber barrier. We're on to 100,000. We're on the way. And I want to thank everybody who is a member of the channel. If you support the channel with a membership, I can't thank you enough. I truly, truly appreciate the help. It makes it possible for me to come here week after week and continue to do this. As you know, starting a podcast isn't easy. Launching a channel takes a lot of work. It is a constant grind, and it costs money to do this. So all of that, every little bit helps. If you want to support the show, you don't have to spend a dime. You can subscribe. That's free. If you want to become a member, you can kick in a couple of bucks a month, and that really helps out. If you want to go to our Patreon, you can go to teamnightshift.com, and you can click on special projects. It'll take you to our Patreon page, and you can become a patron there. And we're doing something really cool. We're doing monthly conference calls with our top patrons, and we're talking about some behind-the-scenes stuff, workshopping some cool tech, and just generally hanging out and having a good time. So if you want to get involved in that, consider it. It's something that really does help. And it's a great group. We have a really, really cool group of people. We just did a raw clotting workshop with AI genius Laura Ackerman, who was kind enough to take us through a raw clotting on-ramp boot camp. And it has been awesome. Really, really fun. And everybody who went through it has had rave reviews. So we're going to be doing some more of that going forward. What else is going on before I wrap up? You can also go pick up some coffee. Like I said, you can subscribe to the Night Shift Coffee brand. We'll send you a box every month, and you get a discount, and it helps support the show. We can enjoy the coffee together. You and me could sit back, have a sip of the good stuff, and talk about deep things. And Friday, we're going to talk about these guys. Chattanooga Whiskey sent us, me and Dan and Pavel and Xander got bottles of their top secret, eyes only, intergalactic Comet Crusher whiskey. So we're going to try and do a on-camera live tasting Friday. So go to their website, Chattanooga Whiskey, check them out, and tell them Night Shift sent you. Okay, gang. Anything else? Last thoughts from the chat? Wrath of Khan's even. Oh, yeah. If you go to the Discord, guys, you can also go, if you go to teamnightshift.com, you can click Discord. It'll take you to our Discord. You can become a member there and hang out with us in the Discord community. We've got all kinds of cool stuff going on there, and some cool game development that's happening. We're working on some games. We've got some cool arts and crafts. And a few new things that the special projects people know about, but you guys, the rest of you haven't heard about yet, but they'll be coming soon. It's all going to be going on Discord. So go there, hang out with us. It's a lot of fun. And that's it for me, guys. I will see you back here Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern time for Doomer Friday. We're going to talk about everything else we didn't get to today. And we're going to look at some robots doing scary stuff. That's fun. We'll bring out the Doom meter. We'll have a shot of whiskey. It'll be a blast. All right, gang. That's it for me. I'll see you Friday. Be good. Keep looking up.